Hey everyone, and welcome back. You know, there are some books you read and they just grab you, and they don't let go. Revelation is like that for me.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it comes to trying to understand the rapture.
Right.
So today, we're diving into a fascinating interpretation
Okay.
that argues for a very specific order of events. Think of it like, when you're piecing together one of those really complex jigsaw puzzles, and you're trying to figure out where all the pieces go. We've got like this... It's like we have this Finnish theologian named Sami Lottie who's going to be our guide.
Oh, cool.
He wrote this whole text, Välähdys Ilmestyskirjasta, which basically lays out this chronological reading of Revelation.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it is pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It really is. And, there are so many different ways people interpret Revelation. Right. But what I found so striking about Lottie's approach is just how he breaks the book down into this incredibly detailed timeline.
Right. It's like he's saying, hold on, everyone's been arguing about the ending, but what if we actually understood the order of events first?
Right.
So, how does he even begin to untangle all of this?
Well, he starts by saying, we need to look at Revelation like a play, like a divine play, with God directing all the action from his throne room. So it's not just a bunch of random symbols. It's a deliberate sequence of events.
Right.
And each of those events, these scenes in the play, they move us closer to this ultimate climax.
Yeah. Okay, I am intrigued. So how does this, divine play actually unfold? What happens?
So Lottie points to these key markers in the text.
Okay.
The seals, the trumpets, and the bowls.
Right.
And I want you to think of them like a cosmic countdown timer.
Oh, wow.
Each seal, each trumpet blast, each bowl poured out, it represents a specific judgment or event that unfolds in a particular order.
Whoa, okay, so it's like a suspense movie, right? Where the tension just keeps ratcheting up with each scene.
Exactly. And Lottie really believes that this order, this timeline, it's absolutely crucial for understanding when the rapture occurs.
Okay.
In relation to everything else.
All right, so let's talk about the rapture, because, that's what we're all here for, right?
Right.
Where does it fit into Lottie's timeline?
So Lottie argues that the rapture happens before the seventh seal is even opened.
Okay.
And to understand why he believes that, we really need to take a close look at what happens in chapters 6 through 8.
Okay.
This is where things get really interesting.
Okay. I'm ready. Chapter 6 through 8.
Right.
Hit me with it.
So in these chapters, we're introduced to 4 distinct groups of people. First, you have the martyrs under the altar in heaven.
Right.
Crying out to God, asking, how long until you avenge our deaths?
Right.
These are believers who died for their faith.
Right. The ones who stayed faithful even when things got really rough.
Exactly. And then you have this group that's described as those who dwell on the earth.
Okay.
But it's not everyone on the planet, right? This phrase has a very specific meaning in Revelation.
Okay, so who are these earth dwellers? What makes them different?
Lottie believes that those who dwell on the earth refers to those who have rejected God.
Okay.
The ones who will ultimately face his judgment. They're still here on earth when all these crazy events start happening.
Got it. Okay. So we've got the faithful martyrs in heaven. We've got these wicked earth dwellers who are still here. Who else is part of this cosmic play?
Well, that's where this next group comes in, the 144,000.
Right.
They're sealed by God for protection.
Okay.
And this sealing is a huge clue to the rapture's timing.
Okay, I'm sensing another aha moment coming on here. Tell me more about the seal and why it matters so much.
So remember how we talked about the seventh seal being this major turning point?
Yeah, like the moment before everything goes down. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, the 144,000, they're sealed before the seventh seal is opened.
Okay.
Lottie believes they're a special group of Jewish evangelists chosen by God to continue spreading the gospel.
Wait a minute. So if they're tasked with spreading the gospel, does that mean
that the church, meaning Christians like you and me, are no longer on the earth at this point?
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what Lottie's arguing. And it makes sense when you look at the order of events.
Wow, okay. This is blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So the martyrs are in heaven.
Right.
The wicked earth dwellers are still here.
Yep.
The 144,000 are sealed and ready to take the gospel to the world. But where does the church, where do we fit into all of this?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
And to answer it, we need to dig a little deeper into those chapters 6 through 8. So we left off with a pretty big question.
Right.
If the 144,000 are sealed before the seventh seal is opened and the church isn't around.
Right.
When did we disappear?
Right.
The answer, according to Lottie, lies in understanding the sequence of events in Revelation 6 through 8.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting.
Yes.
We're talking about those chapters with the seals and the trumpets.
Right.
It's a lot to keep straight.
It can be a lot.
Yes.
But Lottie points to this other set of clues
Okay.
that often get overlooked.
Okay.
The three woes of Revelation.
The woes. Refresh my memory. What are those again?
So these woes are like pronouncements of divine judgment,
Okay.
each one more intense than the last. And here's the kicker. Each woe is directly connected to a specific trumpet.
Wait, hold on. So you're saying the woes don't happen all at once.
Right.
They're spread out over the timeline of the trumpets.
Exactly. The first woe happens with the fifth trumpet.
Okay.
The second woe with the sixth trumpet, and the third woe with the seventh.
Okay.
Remember, it's all about the order,
Right.
the sequence of events.
Right.
And this is where Lottie's argument for a pre-tribulation rapture really starts to click.
Okay, I'm seeing the gears turning.
Good.
But spell it out for me. How do these woes point to the rapture happening before the seventh seal?
It's all about the timing.
Okay.
The seventh seal is opened before the first trumpet even blows,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. It's like that moment of stunned silence
Right,
before the storm hits.
right.
Yeah.
So if the seventh seal is opened before any of the trumpets,
Okay.
and the woes are linked to specific trumpets, then the woes, all of them must happen after the seventh seal.
Okay, I'm following so far. So seventh seal opens, then the trumpets,
Yep.
and the woes are woven into those trumpet judgments.
Yes.
But I'm still missing. How does this connect to the rapture?
Okay, so think about it this way. One of the woes involves the two witnesses
Right.
who preach for 3.5 years.
Okay.
And during that time, those who are against God are full of rage and they celebrate their deaths.
Oh, okay. I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
If those who are against God are still on earth at that point rejoicing in the death of God's witnesses,
Right.
then the church, those who would mourn their deaths must already be gone.
Exactly. It's like putting together this giant divine jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
And Lottie's giving us these crucial corner pieces.
Okay. Yeah, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So if Lottie's right about this chronological nature of Revelation, and if those who rejected God are still around to experience the woes,
Yeah.
then the rapture had to have already happened.
Yeah.
It's like the church is, well, we're out of the picture by then.
That's the implication.
Wow.
And it's a crucial distinction between Lottie's view and those who hold to a mid-tribulation or a post-tribulation rapture.
Okay.
Right? Those interpretations place the rapture somewhere within or after those trumpet judgments.
Right.
But Lottie's timeline doesn't allow for that.
Man, this is a lot to take in. But I have to say, it's making a lot more sense than when I tried to read Revelation on my own.
That's the power of looking at Scripture with a fresh perspective.
Right.
But remember, interpretations are just interpretations. What matters most is seeking truth.
Right.
And understanding.
Absolutely. But let's be honest. Sometimes these details in Revelation can feel overwhelming.
Sure.
For someone listening who's maybe feeling a little lost, what would you say is the most important thing to remember about Lottie's argument?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is this. If Lottie's right about the chronological order of Revelation,
Okay.
and the woes happen after the seventh seal,
Then the church is gone before things really hit the fan.
exactly.
Yeah.
It changes the whole game, doesn't it?
It really does. But even with this, clearer timeline, I have to admit, sometimes it's hard to connect these ancient prophecies to my everyday life.
I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. So let's talk about what all of this actually means for us, for the everyday believer.
So we've been unpacking this whole idea
Right?
that the rapture could happen before things really get bad here on Earth,
Yeah.
before those woes are unleashed.
It's a lot to process.
It is a lot to process. But here's the question I keep coming back to.
Yeah.
What does this all mean for us?
Right.
For the everyday believer?
That's the heart of it, isn't it? And honestly, I think the implications are profound.
Okay.
Because you see, understanding the sequence of end times events, it isn't about predicting dates
Right.
or getting caught up in fear mongering.
Right.
It's about understanding God's plan
Okay.
and our place in it.
Yeah. I love that. It's not about obsessing over when things will happen. It's about how do we live each day
Right.
with purpose and with hope.
Exactly. Whether the rapture happens in 5 minutes or 500 years,
Right.
the message of Revelation is ultimately one of hope.
Okay.
It reminds us that God is in control. He will ultimately triumph over evil, and those who belong to him have an eternal destiny.
That's a truth we can cling to no matter what's happening in the world around us.
Absolutely.
But I have to admit, sometimes reading Revelation leaves me with more questions than answers.
Sure.
So for someone listening who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all this, what would you say is like the most important takeaway?
I'd say focus on the big picture. Focus on your relationship with God, on living a life that reflects his love and grace, and on sharing the gospel message with others.
Those are words to live by, for sure. But Lottie, he throws in this one final detail that I cannot shake.
Oh.
He talks about that half-hour silence in heaven after the seventh seal is opened. You know, in Revelation 8.1. What do you make of that?
Isn't that interesting?
It's so interesting.
It's like this hush falls over heaven.
Yeah.
This like pregnant pause before the curtain rises.
Right.
On the final act of God's judgment. It's almost like everyone, all the angels, all the redeemed souls are holding their breath, knowing what's about to unfold.
Chills, right. I mean, what an image.
Right.
It's awe-inspiring.
It is.
And terrifying at the same time.
It is. And, you know, for those of us who are still here on earth, I think it's this powerful reminder that even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty, God is still on his throne. He's still in control. And his plan is unfolding exactly as he intended.
That brings such a sense of peace in the midst of all the, well, the apocalyptic imagery.
Absolutely. Yeah. We don't have to be afraid.
Right.
Because we know the one who holds the future.
I love that. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From seals and trumpets to those woes and this whole mystery of the 144,000.
Yes. And we explored a truly fascinating interpretation of the rapture.
Right.
One that really makes you think twice about the usual assumption.
Right. But ultimately, the most important takeaway is that Revelation isn't just some ancient text filled with these cryptic symbols. It's a living, breathing message of hope and warning for us today.
Exactly. Whether we're talking about the rapture or the final judgment, the message remains the same. God is sovereign. He loves us.
Yes.
And he offers us hope for eternity.
So to everyone listening, keep exploring Revelation with this new chronological framework in mind.
Yes.
Dive into the scriptures, pray for guidance, and remember, even in the midst of the most dramatic scenes, there's a God who loves you.
That's right.
And has a plan for your life.
Amen to that.
Until next time, everyone, keep seeking, keep learning, keep the faith. We'll see you on our next deep dive.